Sun Tzu once wrote in The Art of War that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. It's best to avoid conflict if possible, but sometimes there's no other option. The skilled martial artist may be able to subdue an enemy without harming them, but this requires more effort than the more efficient means of going through strikes and knockouts. Through learning a violent martial art like Shou Shu, you can become better able to defend yourself, and you can achieve greater discipline in your behavior. Even if it might seem like something of a paradox that learning violent fighting skills can lead to a more peaceful life. Well, so today I'm going to discuss what Shou Shu is, the martial art that I'm learning. Today I'm going to explain what Shou Shu is, how learning such a violent art can bring you more peaceful behavior, paradoxically, and how martial arts training can bring you health benefits both physically and mentally. So to begin, let me first tell you my experience with Kung Fu and the art that I'm learning. Shou Shu is a fighting art that I've been learning for the past year and a half. This belt indicates that I have completed the yellow material and nearly completed my orange material, the next rank. The red tips signify that I've completed a training program and am qualified as a junior instructor, able to teach new students material. So, Shou Shu is a fighting art which is differentiated from sparring art in that they're designed for real fighting situations, for self-defense. Whereas sparring arts are more based on tournaments and exhibitions, and won't be as effective in a real fight because they're so strict and rule-based. Don't get me wrong when I say that learning Shou Shu can make you more peaceful. It really is violent. We regularly discuss eye gouges, groin kicks, and breaking bones. And yet, the teachers are some of the nicest people I know. In an interview in a podcast presented by the Shang-Chi Center from Phil Weaver, the head instructor there, he explains the three basic principles of Shou Shu. First, moves must have flowing focused chi, which basically means that there's a continuation of energy in your motions. Second principle is that your moves must take people in the center line, which means getting into their space, taking them off balance, giving yourself the advantage. And the third principle is that you must block all possibilities. Let's say you have an opponent, you can get close so they can't kick, they're trapped in, or you keep a cover hand in place. You want to protect yourself from what they might throw next. Now, this podcast is an hour-long discussion on the subject, and still only really covers the basics of what Shou Shu is. To go into greater detail, I need a whole separate speech, and a long one at that. So, to stay on topic, I will next discuss this peace through violence paradox that I mentioned. So, how can learning to rip someone's throat out lead you to a more peaceful life? It's all about the discipline. Knowing the reality of violence and what it can actually do to people, you might start to realize that fighting is almost never the best solution. Though should the need arise, it's better that you know how to defend yourself than not. A skilled martial artist might be able to end the fight situation without harming an opponent or defuse the situation entirely. So, say I had to defend myself, and someone was throwing a punch at me, say Mr. Ray here. And I might be able to do a technique called walking elbow, something along these lines. You can see, please. Thank you. And if I slow that down, what I've done here is blocking all possibilities. You want to block your face first. So slowly, you block the strike the ribs, armbar him in the face. Thank you. Now, you could potentially break the arm with that armbar and knock the opponent out, as it's the most efficient way to end the fight, to quickly end it, knock him out. Well, let's say Mr. Ray's a friend here, and he's out of control. I want to subdue him without harming him so much. And I might do a little variation, something like this, that means where I, well, not here. Thank you. Now, if I slow that down, sorry, one more time. What I've done here is, as before, blocking is the most important first move. Okay. I block the strike go straight for the arm bar this time, bring her around, redirect that punch into a wrist lock. Here I control the situation, control the opponent, and therefore the situation. Thank you, Mr. Okay. So, in a real fight situation, you might not have the luxury of doing just the right motions to get the perfect move to not harm your opponent. And if your life is threatened, really you'll want to go for the strikes and knockouts to quickly end the fight efficiently and safely. But knowing how to harm someone can lead to greater restraint. In an interview that I had with Phil Weaver, the head instructor whom I mentioned earlier, he explains situations where skilled martial artists tend to experience something of a disconnect when faced with a violent confrontation. Say an aggressor were to approach them and threaten them that they wanted to fight them. The martial artists might remain calm and keep calm conversation that could potentially diffuse the situation. But at the same time, the visual kinesthetic part of that martial artist's brain might be processing, that's the part that processes feeling and sight, might be processing all the ways that they may defend themselves should the need arise. Even if the situation ends peacefully or otherwise, they might not realize that they were doing this until the situation is ended. So from this example that Bill Weaver gave me, it seems that skilled martial artists who are capable of great violence seem to tend to choose the less violent solution in a situation like that, even if it's subconscious. This is due to the great discipline that they achieve, which brings me to my final point. Martial arts training and exercise can bring you greater balance, both physically and mentally, and it can bring you that more discipline in your behavior. An article by Frank Sacco and Stuart Twemlow in the magazine Adolescence finds that discusses violent youths whose only outlet for aggression and source of role models was through gangs, and suggests that martial arts training and instructors can be a much more positive alternative. The article states that martial arts in a therapeutic setting with properly trained and supervised instructors can be an extraordinarily helpful ego-building form of psychotherapy. This basically means that martial arts training can help build self-confidence, which brings many benefits to your behavior. And while I've never been a delinquent myself, I've always been very shy, and I found that my time in learning Kung Fu has helped me to develop socially. Now, it should come as no surprise that martial arts training and exercise can bring you physical health benefits as well. Thomas W. Woodward, Doctor of Medicine, finds in the Wisconsin Medical Journal that martial arts can improve the health of individuals. He finds that, quote, while young people commonly practice martial arts, the benefits of martial arts are not confined to the young. Middle-aged participants demonstrated a significantly better aerobic capacity, balance, strength, body fat percentages, and flexibility compared to sedentary patrols. This basically means that those who practice martial arts were found to be in better physical shape than those who would not. So today, I've discussed what Shou Shu is, the martial art that I'm learning, how learning violent fighting skills can help you become more peaceful and more disciplined in your behavior, and the benefits that martial arts training and exercise can bring you in both mind and body. As the philosophical concept of Occam's razor states, the simplest solution is usually the best. Fights can be a brutal mess, so it's simpler to avoid them if possible. But should the need arise, it's better that you know how to defend yourself or not. Hopefully today I may have been able to inspire some of you to try Shou Shu or Kung Fu in general, so you can get out there and kick some ass. Metaphorically speaking, of course.